I thought my wife was having an affair. I was wrong. The truth was so much worse. You know, I used to think the worst thing in life was a sudden catastrophe. A fire, a crash, something quick and destructive. But I was wrong. Real hell is when your life is taken apart, brick by brick, right before your eyes by the person you trusted most in the world. And you don't even realize you're already standing in the ruins until it's too late. My name is Maxim, and this is the story of how I lived in a house that turned out to be an illusion. And about a woman, my wife Alina, who turned out to be a complete stranger. That day started like any other. I remember the smell of coffee and the apple pie Alina had baked the night before. Sunlight was streaming onto the parquet floor in our living room, and Katya, our 16-year-old daughter, was grumbling about school, glued to her phone. I looked at them. My beautiful wife, my smart daughter. This cozy, lived-in home, and I felt like a king. I was a successful architect. I had built this life like I built my projects. Solid, reliable, to last for centuries. I was utterly happy, and as it turned out, utterly blind. The first crack appeared in the most ridiculous way, in Alina's car. I was moving a child seat for my nephew and found a men's air freshener under the seat. Not the one I bought, an expensive one, with a heavy scent of expensive leather and sandalwood. Not her scent. Not at all. When I asked her about it, she laughed. "Oh, that? Julia bought some silly thing. It stinks, doesn't it? I'll throw it out." She waved her hand and her smile was so easy, so natural that I believed her. I filed it away as a minor oddity, a piece of mental clutter to be forgotten. But the seed had been planted. Tiny, almost imperceptible changes started to come into focus. Her phone, which had always had the same passcode our wedding date for 10 years, suddenly had a new one. I tried to check the weather one evening, and the numbers didn't work. She took it from my hands with a nervous little laugh. "Oh, I changed it after reading that article about cybersecurity. It's all fingerprints now. Much safer." Her smile was a little too bright. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine. Then came the late nights with Julia. "We're just brainstorming for the gallery, Max. You know how creative we get after a bottle of wine," she'd say, her voice slightly slurred over the phone. I shrugged it off. I trusted her. I trusted the life we had built. But the trust was no longer a solid foundation. It was becoming thin ice, and I could feel it cracking under my feet. The ice finally gave way on a rainy Tuesday. I'd forgotten a crucial set of blueprints and had to turn back mid-meeting. The house was empty, silent. As I grabbed the folder from my study, my eyes fell on Alina's tablet, charging on her desk. On a whim, a nagging feeling I could no longer ignore, I picked it up. It was unlocked. My heart started hammering against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of dread. I opened her messaging app. Most chats were mundane, but then I saw it. A conversation with an unsaved number. The last message sent just an hour ago read, "This afternoon feels like an eternity. Can't wait to see you." I felt the blood drain from my face. I scrolled up. There were no explicit photos, no pet names, just intimacy. "I had that dream about the sea again. I saved you a croissant from that bakery you like." It was the quiet, comfortable language of a shared secret world, a world I wasn't a part of. A cold, blinding rage took over. I left the house, got in my car, and drove. I ended up at a park we often went to as a family. I sat there for hours, the rain streaking down the windshield, mirroring the chaos inside me. When I finally confronted her that night, my voice was low and dangerous. "Who is he, Alina?" The denial was a torturous performance. Tears, accusations of me being paranoid. But I was an architect. I understood structures, and the structure of her lies was collapsing. Finally, she broke. Sobbing on the kitchen floor, a shattered figure in the heart of our perfect home, she whispered his name. "Artem." She said she felt invisible, that I was married to my work, that he saw her. Each word was a nail in the coffin of our marriage. Our daughter, Katya, heard everything from the top of the stairs. When she ran down, the look of pure betrayal on her face, aimed solely at her mother, was a wound I knew would never fully heal. The weeks that followed were a dark blur. I moved into the guest room. The house became a museum of our failure. I drank too much. The silence was deafening. I was consumed by a need for revenge. I wanted to destroy this Artem. I hired a private investigator, a grim man named Dmitri. I want everything on him, I told him. I want to leave him with nothing. The initial report came back. Artem Volkov, successful businessman, coffee shops, divorced, clean record. Dmitri included photos. I sifted through them, my hatred burning with each image of this handsome, confident stranger. And then I saw it. In one photo, Artem was leaving his office. But in the background, coming out of a boutique next door, was Julia, Alina's best friend. She didn't just see him. She walked up to him, and he leaned in and kissed her. A brief, familiar, married kiss. My mind short-circuited. If Artem was married to Julia, and Julia was Alina's best friend, the pieces spun in a maddening, illogical circle. I called Dmitri back, my voice trembling. The woman, Julia, find out everything. The truth was a sucker punch to the soul. Dmitri's report was cold and factual. Artem Volkov and Yulia Volkova are legally married, have been for 12 years. They co-own the business. They share a home. I sat in the dark, the papers scattered around me. My wife wasn't just having an affair. She was a character in some sick, twisted play where her lover's wife was also her closest confidant. The girls' nights, the constant companionship, it was all a grotesque facade. But why? What was the point of this elaborate hell? Driven by a desperate obsession, I confronted Artem in his coffee shop. I expected a fight, denials. Instead, he looked weary, defeated. You have no idea what you're involved in, he said quietly, his eyes full of a strange pity. You should just walk away. This isn't your war. Not my war? The phrase became a mantra in my head. What war? I felt like I was digging in the wrong place, unearthing something far darker than a simple affair. I started digging into the past, old university contacts, public records. I learned that Alina and Julia's friendship wasn't new. It was ancient, from art school, and had been broken for years before recently rekindling. An old classmate, hesitant, finally told me the key. There was a tragedy. A baby boy. He died. It destroyed Alina. She and Julia, they fell apart after that. A cold dread, colder than anything I'd ever felt, seized me. A child. Alina had only ever mentioned a major surgery. Katya was her miracle. The lie was so vast it was oceanic. Using every resource I had, I accessed her old medical records. And there it was, in stark, clinical, black and white. Live birth, male. Outcome, deceased. My vision blurred as I scanned down to the father's name, the name I now knew so well, Artem Volkov. The world stopped. The puzzle pieces didn't just fit. They formed a picture of such profound, decades-long sorrow and manipulation that it took my breath away. The shared tragedy, the son they lost, Julia, the best friend, stepping in to comfort Artem, building a life on the ashes of Alina's grief, a marriage that became a prison, and Artem never forgetting his first love. And Julia, in an act of desperate, monstrous love, offering her husband a consolation prize to keep him, she brought Alina back. She facilitated the affair to maintain control. And Alina, still haunted by the ghost of her son, walked right back into the trauma, sacrificing our real, present family for a chance to heal a 20-year-old wound. I called them all together in our living room, Alina, Artem, Julia. I told them it was about the divorce. I needed them in one room, the scene of the crime. When they were all seated, I stood before them. I didn't yell. My voice was flat, cold, final. This isn't about divorce, I began. It's an autopsy on 3 lives you've poisoned with a secret that was too heavy for you to carry alone. I laid it all out. The medical records, the timeline, the rekindled friendship that was a carefully orchestrated trap. I watched Alina crumple, the truth hitting her not as a revelation, but as a long-suppressed nightmare returning. I watched Artem stare at the floor, a broken man. I watched Julia's mask of concern shatter into sheer, undiluted terror. You weren't having an affair, Alina, I said, my voice breaking for the first time. You were being used as a human bandage for their failed marriage. Julia gave you to her husband to keep him. And you, I looked at Artem, you were so consumed by your own guilt that you thought you could resurrect the past by destroying my present. I finally turned to Julia. And you are the architect of this hell. You offered up your best friend, the mother of your husband's dead child, as a sacrifice to save your hollow life. The silence in the room was heavier than any sound. And then a small noise from the doorway. Katya stood there, her bag on the floor. She had come home early. She had heard everything. She wasn't looking at them with the anger of a betrayed teenager anymore. She was looking at her mother with a heartbreaking, profound pity. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They used you. All of them. And you. You let them. You used us, our family, for a ghost." A year has passed since that day. The divorce is final. The house is sold. I live in a small, quiet apartment. The silence here is different. It's not the silence of betrayal. It's the silence of recovery, painful and slow. My relationship with Katya is fragile, a delicate thing we are both trying to mend. She carries a deep anger, and it frightens me sometimes. Alina lives alone. She's in therapy, I'm told, finally facing the grief she buried 2 decades ago. Her meetings with Katya are strained, filled with long, painful silences, but they happen. It's a start. Artem and Julia, their world imploded. Their divorce was messy and public. Their business collapsed under the weight of the scandal. They are just gone from each other's lives, living reminders of a terrible, unforgivable choice. I stand on my balcony now, looking at the city lights. The perfect static painting of my old life is gone. It was a beautiful lie. What I have now is a messy, painful, and often difficult truth. But it's real. I finally understand. The greatest betrayal wasn't just the other man. It was the labyrinth of lies, the unspoken grief, and the willingness of broken people to break others rather than face their own pain. The fortress I built is gone. But now, for the first time, I'm building something new. Not a fortress to keep the pain out, but a home where the truth, no matter how hard, is finally allowed to live. And maybe, just maybe, that's a stronger foundation after all.